Welcome to the Angels Win podcast with former Angels broadcaster Victor Rojas, featuring Geoff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. And now it's time to talk about some baseball. Victor, take it away.
It is episode number 13 of the Angels Win podcast. I'm Victor Rojas, along with Geoff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. And gentlemen, cheers. It is an afternoon,
cheers,
a Thursday
friends.
Afternoon, an off day for the Angels. And yeah, we're drinking. And don't mind the big fly sticker on my cup.
We are. Brand placement is important.
Why not? I like that shirt, Chuck Richter. I love Tears for Fears.
Oh, man, it was such a great concert. And the venue there in Franklin was just amazing.
Nice.
Just surrounded by these limes, like this limestone mountainous like thing, and you're sunk into this thing, and the sound was just amazing. And they're a great band live.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I recommend seeing them if you haven't.
I will have to check it out. It's been a while since we've been on, about 10 days, 11 days, whatever the case may be, just before the All-Star break.
Yep.
And we're glad you're with us. Obviously, a lot to talk about. I guess you could say a lot to talk about. It's really, it seems like everything is down one lane of things to talk about. But we will get to it. Typically on our podcast, if the first time you're listening to us, we go back in time and look what the Angels had done, and then we kind of look ahead to the week that is forthcoming. We're kind of in a weird spot right now. There's some traveling with Chuck having to go to Southern California this weekend, and that's why we're doing it on Thursday. But typically, we do these on a Sunday night, and then we release it Sunday night, Monday morning. So glad you're here. We are obviously either Apple's podcast, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, whatever the case may be, and but we're glad you're here. Let's talk some Angels baseball. The All-Star break, I think, was a good thing for the Angels, the way they were limping to the All-Star break, and no pun intended as far as the guys being on the injured list and the like. They came out of it, and they were okay, and then they swept the New York Yankees. I will get into it very quickly by stating, I think Bob Nightingale of USA Today had a tweet either last night or this morning or whatever, that it was an impressive sweep of the New York Yankees. And now the Angels are one game over 500, and it's going to make decisions even that much more difficult going into the trade deadline that's coming up at the end of the month. I laugh because it's like, look, I mean, I don't know how impressive it is to sweep a last place team, because that's what the Yankees are right now. But be that as it may, it was a nice victory. And someone asked me earlier today about I saw some Mark Healy, who is a huge Mets guy and follows the Mets. I think it's Gotham City that he writes for, Mets blog and stuff. He tweeted something, and it was about the Yankees. And I know people are talking a little bit about Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman should one or both get fired and all that stuff. I said in my reply to his tweet that was about as lifeless a series for a team that I have seen in a long time. And I was talking about the New York Yankees. Like, they look like it was September 15th and they're already out of the playoffs and they're planning their vacations.
They're
to
15
Cabo
games
and
out.
Visibly, that's what it looked like to me. The mistakes that they were making, the stuff that was going on in the dugout, the smiling, the Carlos Rodon kiss to Yankee fans giving him garbage. I mean, I'm telling you, if you just close your eyes and all of a sudden saw it, you'd think, all right, these guys are just mailing it in. It's like they're done. But that being said, that's not taking anything away from what the Angels did. Those are the series that we've talked about a number of times that you've got to go in and win. Take 2 of 3, yep. And if you get a chance to sweep, awesome. They get the sweep, and you still have Pittsburgh and Detroit coming up before you get into the rough schedule that is the month of August. So I'll throw it to you, Geoff. You, by the way, who did a wonderful job in hosting in episode 12. I feel pretty good. I feel energized. I'm going to go ahead and take the reins back.
I gladly hand them back to you. It was I appreciate all the feedback I got from people on Twitter that I jumped right in and took it.
You did.
Again, it was a surprise, not planned, but happy to do it. Yeah, great to get a sweep against them. I guess they did. The Yankees did look flat. They did look lifeless. Let me bolster a little bit though the idea that it was an impressive sweep. The Yankees are a team that have a better record than the Angels do.
Mm-hmm.
So while they are a last place team, they are a last place team in the AL East where everybody is over 500. So, tough division or, tough group to play in,
Fair enough.
unlike the AL Central where you have one
Yeah.
team that's over 500 and everybody else is sub. So, you take them where you can get them. It's not like they just beat Kansas City and swept Kansas City or swept Oakland. They swept a team that's over 500 and is, or at least should be a good ball club. I'll take it. I don't know what you think, Chuck.
No, Chuck, and just to lead you into this, Chuck, I mean, you talk about this all the time, right? There's going to be series like the Rockies series where you outscore the Rockies and lose 2 of 3, right? And you outscored them because you scored this stupid amount of runs in game 2. And then you're going to have series like this. And then it's very possible they can go out and lose 2 or 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think I don't want to discount anything what the Angels did against the Yankees. I just think that's almost as if you looked across the way on the first base dugout, you saw them on day one. I'm like, let's go kick their ass. And that's exactly what they did. You know what I mean? It's like, if they're not going to show you anything, as far as feedback, like, hey, they're here to fight and they're going to clamor, wait till Aaron Judge gets back, but they're going to still put up a good fight. That's one thing.
Right.
But that's the sense that I got watching the Angels is like, they're going to roll over them. Let's go. And they did it. And kudos to the Angels for doing that.
And I will say, to your point earlier, it was really good coming out of the break and getting some guys healed up. Zach Neto, in my opinion, is just a spark plug.
Yep.
You may look at
Absolutely.
the lineup at the box score the next day, and he may be 1 for 5. Okay, but the guy just energizes the team, and he plays great defense. And for such a young kid, he's beyond his years, right? Just on the field, just that he's almost like a veteran presence. And just a smart ball player as well.
Yep.
But I'm going to go back just a little bit further. That Houston Astros series, even though we lost 2 out of 3, we could have easily taken that series, collapsed by the bullpen on Sunday. It was unfortunate. It's a game that the Angels should have won. But they were in every single game in that series. They battled. And I really liked how the offense, just won't give up. And they didn't in that entire series. And so I think they kind of, even though they lost that series, and there was some disappointment rolling into the New York Yankees coming into town, I think they used that kind of as momentum. And you don't typically ride a momentum off a losing series. But I think, and I'm guessing Phil Nevin and Mustakus, who's clearly the new team clubhouse leader, pointed those things out as positives. Like there's fight in this team. We're never giving up. And so
we've said that though. There hasn't been a show. I can't recall, Jeff, you're the resident librarian here that can remember all the stuff we've done on each of these episodes. I remember about 5 minutes in the past. That's it. But I don't think we've ever once said these guys look flat. They've had bad series, I think effort is there. I pretty much we've seen and pretty much have said that. So I think you're right to an extent that, especially not as it relates to the trade deadline, because I know that's just the time of year that we're in and everyone wants to focus in on that because of the Shohei situation. But I think if the plan is to try to get to the postseason, at least try to get in somehow, that you got to start winning series. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go out and reel off 12 in a row, as sweet as that would be, right? But just 2 or 3, 2 or 3, 2 or 3, 2 or 3, 2 or 3. Just keep winning series, and then you'll take your chances and see where you're at come mid-September. and have a better assessment of the club. The problem has been lose 2 of 3, win 2 of 3, or sweep a series, lose 2 of 3, or split a 4-game series. That's where that struggle has been, is the inconsistency of being able to just kind of ride some sort of high. And I think that's going into tomorrow night against the Pirates. I think that's what you almost want to see, how they do come out. And do they play good fundamental baseball? Do they take the extra base? Do we not get anybody thrown out at home plate with a windmill at third base? Just little things like that, because it's not just it's easy to point to the guys on the field or the 9 that are in the lineup any given night, but it's everybody. It's the manager, it's the coaching staff, it's the pitching staff, the bullpen, it's the guys on the field. It's everybody collectively going in the same direction every single time out. And I think that's what's been the overarching frustration of this ball club. You sweep the Yankees and you're game over 500 on the year. We're at that, still in that talking point of really, who is this team? When's the real team going to show up? Or is this the real team?
Or have they?
Right. Or have they? Are we seeing? Are we seeing what this team actually is? And I know there's some injuries. Trout's out, obviously. Drury's out. Ohtani, hopefully is able to come back at some point. But even then, it's coming back from a rehab. It's different, right? It's different than prepping all off season, prepping into spring training, starting the season, and then having that hot start to shut down, rehab, injury, coming back, rehab games, and hopefully he could some sort of a semblance of what he was, when he got hurt. So there's my quandary, right? And I can only imagine, if we're sitting here, the three of us having this conversation, you imagine Perry and John and Artie and Dennis and talking about, okay, what do we do?
Right.
What do we do? Because it's not an easy predicament to be in, because your heart is telling you, God, I really want this team to do something this year. Whether it has any impact whatsoever of Shohei signing with the Angels, whatever. I mean, that's something that's going to be taken care of in the offseason, right? One way or the other. But just to have some sort of momentum, right? And some momentum into 24. That's how I'm looking at it, right? And I know that once you get into a postseason, anything can happen. You can look at the Royals. The Royals did it, right?
Yep.
They boat raced the Angels, and off and running they went, right? It happens with wild card teams, the teams that get hot. But I'm still looking at it. It's man, I really like where this team is at right now. The Nettos of the world, the Hoppies of the world, the Ben Joyces of the world. This Griffin Canning. Hey, listen, I'm going to tap the brakes on Griffin Canning still.
He looked good.
He looked very good against a dead team. That's not taking anything away from Griffin Canning, because those are the teams that you need to go out and shove against.
Right.
Is teams like that, right? But I like what I saw from him, and I hopefully and we've seen little glimpses of it from Griffin this year, and so that's why it gets my wheels turning to 24 and 25, and then you see some of the guys in the minor leagues now, the draft, and you're like, man, this could be pretty good. You know what I mean? This could be pretty good and possibly sustainable with or without Shohei.
Right.
Shohei to me is a luxury right now. Well, not right now, going into next year, right? Because it's that high ticket item that okay, we can afford it. All right, we'll have him. It's great. We'll have a star pitcher. We got a star guy, but is it going to hamper the rest of the roster? I don't know how much it will, because of how many young players there are. And I'm kind of scatter shooting here, but that's kind of where we're all at right now. It's what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? So just imagine the front office, what they're thinking,
And to that point, right now is a difficult time. If the Angels go and take 5 out of 6 out of the next games against the Pirates and Tigers, which they should.
Doable. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They should.
Very doable.
Then they got the tough Toronto Blue Jays that are right before the deadline. Okay. If if you take 5 out of 6 from teams that you should beat, okay, and you go in and you beat Toronto 2 out of 3, I'm sorry, but Perry's got to be push all the chips in, and I mean all. You got to go fully in, and
fully in and what? Define that.
Fully in to this season, and I know that Victor, to your point that you just made, that you're excited about the players that are going to be a part of this team. They're not getting traded. The Ohapis, the Netos, the Joyces, but the farm system, okay, and
So
some
Adele.
of these other players. Yeah,
I mean, who do you put in there? Because there's so many guys that are either up now or have been up and down. I mean, do you have Adele in that mix? Do you have Cabbage in that mix? Like who are the players?
And what are you getting?
Right.
And what are you seeking? Like that's why I'm asking. When you say all in, that means you're trading everybody. But what are you trading for?
You're trading for, in my opinion, bullpen help. And I think the Angels really, excuse my language, but fucked up by not getting Chapman. And the Rangers just snuck in there and got Chapman. And their biggest flaw, their biggest weakness was the bullpen. And they just righted that, right? And now you got a guy that's a lockdown guy in the latter innings, closing games, throwing 103 miles an hour again. And so the Angels need to bolster the bullpen, in my opinion. You can't just ride Estevez. And as you can see, Nevin won't overwork Estevez, okay? And then, so you got Estevez and Matt Moore, and Davinsky's on the IL, and he had already been terrible for the last month. And then you got Webb. Soriano is another wild card. He's been pitching really well, but I want veteran guys to slam the door in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. Collectively, not just one guy like Matt Moore, but I want a group that you could put in there, and I want somebody that can take over for Estevez if he's been overworked to close out the 9th inning. The Angels need, in my opinion, since their offense keeps them in the game, and hopefully this trend of the starting pitching better of late can keep them in these games early on as well. So when I say go all in, Victor, I mean, we're not talking a Max Scherzer. We're not talking anything, shiny and bright, but guys that can close innings late.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Angels do that with Drury coming back soon, Ohtani coming back maybe in a few weeks, and they're saying Trout is making just phenomenal progress in his rehab. He's already doing things way before he should in his rehabilitation.
Seems like he always does that. Remember when he broke his, was it the pinky or whatever it was, when he was dive head first at second base in Miami? Yeah. He's done for the year. Then it's just he's kind of a freak of nature. I mean, he obviously body
anything with bones or anything, I think he comes back quick from.
Yeah.
Obviously that calf injury last year, that's soft tissue. You just can't come back from that. That's hard.
Yeah.
But and honestly, guys, bullpen. Get guys that can pitch a 6th inning. If you're only going to get 5 innings from Canning, because Canning is striking out 12 guys, but he's throwing a lot of pitches. I want a guy to go into the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and then you got Estevez ready for the 9th.
Griffin's problem. Yeah,
it's that bridge.
Yeah, no, I get it. I hear where you're coming from, and Griffin's, like I said, a fantastic game. Is it an outlier game? Remains to be seen, right? It's not in line with what he has done in the past, and his pitch count, much like Sandoval's, that's where Griffin has gotten his problem. It's like he throws way too many pitches early in the game, and that's why he's at the century mark in the 5th inning, and that's why he seldom works deep into games. That's
right.
Since he got to the big leagues, that's how he's been. And Patrick's been kind of the same thing. Righted it a little bit last year, but early on this year, I think early on he was kind of what we saw last year, but then he's been kind of the same guy we've seen in the past. Unfortunately, it's kind of reared his ugly head. But let me throw something out at you, because I'm still I'm still of the opinion that if you get overwhelmed in a trade offer for Shohei, I still think you've got to make that move. I just feel like, because I have to look, there's zero guarantee you get to the postseason, zero guarantee you're signing Shohei long term. Those are really guarantees, right? There's zero guarantee that you're getting either one. And so again, it's got to be like the perfect. I'm not saying just trade him for the sake of trading him, because I still think that if you can make a trade of that magnitude and still simultaneously address the issue that you're talking about, that doesn't just point to this year, but maybe into 24, a guy that's got a year, a vesting year left, or whatever the case may be, that does have some impact in 24. And it's kind of two trains going by each other in the middle of the night, right? Where you're getting a haul of players in exchange for Shohei. And I still think that you have an excellent shot of, just as good a shot as anybody of re-signing him. I still believe wholeheartedly that just because you trade him doesn't mean
he's gone.
X's out the Angels completely off the list.
Here's an angle on that. I think if the Angels kind of just sputter to the trade deadline and they don't do any things that we just talked about earlier, winning 5 out of 6 against teams that you should, the Pirates and Tigers, get their asses handed to them by the Blue Jays. If you get a sweet package like that, okay, and you send Ohtani to a team on the East Coast, and I hope it's to a team on the East Coast, because one bad outing, they're going to be on his ass. And he's like, I didn't get this in Orange County.
Right.
Okay.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. And so you know where I'm going, which lane I'm in.
Yeah.
So maybe to him is like, I like the laid back Orange County West Coast fans. This team just got a haul of players that's going to be there when I re-sign with the club in the offseason. We had a talk, and I hope this talk happens. Artie Moreno with his agent and Ohtani himself, like, listen, here we are. We don't know if we're going to make the postseason. We want you back long term, however. We're going to send you someplace where you have a way better shot at getting to the playoffs to experience that.
This year.
Okay? This year.
Yeah.
However, we are building for the future. You are part of that future. And the only way that we can bolster this roster going forward is if we trade you.
Yep.
And if all of those things happen that I just laid out, I think that's a perfect scenario for him to not only see how awesome he's had it in Orange County with how laid back the media is, how laid back the fans are, how they don't get on him if he's got one of those outings where he's throwing a bunch of pitches and he's got a blister issue or a fingernail thing, or striking out with the bases loaded, whatever. Okay. That stuff happens on the East Coast and he will see it. He will hear it. Okay. He'll see it in the media. He'll hear it from the fans.
So let me ask you then, Chuck, who is or who could be that East Coast team? Because the team that's going to get him is a team that's going all in for this year to make a run, right? So it's not going to be the Mets. The Mets are 5 games under 500.
They don't have the prospects either. Yeah.
Is it going to be the Yankees? As we've talked about, they're over 500, but they're in last place. They've got a bunch of teams they need to jump.
It was something they used to do under George Steinbrenner. They would absolutely do it.
100%. Do they have the prospects that we would want to make that happen? The Yankees.
Yes and no.
So who is the team that has the prospects and is in the hunt that could make a deal to the Angels that is worth it enough for us to get this haul that we're talking about? Because
can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I'm going to throw one that's a wild card here. The Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are in a position to take on, which would be probably $10 million left of Ohtani's contract for the rest of this year, and give up not just top-rated prospects, but they have a ton of second-tier prospects. And when I say second-tier guys, I mean these guys are good. They would be in the Angels' top 10. Okay.
But to your point that you were just speaking to, do you think that the fandom and the press in Tampa Bay is going to be all over his ass if he has a bad outing?
Fair enough. No. So Phillies.
Now, Phillies would be interesting.
Yes, because I feel like with the Phillies, you could get talent from the ball club and top prospects in their organization. So that's another one.
Okay.
Another one, well, if we're excluding West Coast teams and teams that we don't want him to go to because he potentially be like, oh, this is great here, you have to exclude the San Francisco Giants, the Arizona, Diamondbacks.
Why exclude the Diamondbacks? Their
well,
system's pretty good.
I mean, to the point, to the narrative of shitty fans.
So
I
want to trade him you just want to trade him to a shitty fandom, just in the hopes that he does shit the bed.
I realize
people in Arizona, they're not going to get on you if you go 0 for 4. I want these shit fans from the East Coast.
That's because there's nobody in the ballpark because their tires are melting on the drive to the stadium right now.
Fair enough. Yeah. And actually, Ohtani probably won't dig the heat out there either.
Boston?
Right, that would be a reason to send him. It's miserable out there. Send him there.
I'll give you guys one.
What about Boston?
The Baltimore Orioles have the most prospects in the top 100 prospects list that are ready to go now. Not in 1 year or 2 years, but right now. And so if they feel right now they're atop the AL East, they've overtaken the Rays, for crying out loud, okay? And if they wanted to my point earlier, go all in and get a player that's their ace in the rotation and their best hitter in their lineup in what is already a great overall team, and you have the prospect, talent to do it, and why not?
They have the means to do it. They certainly have the financial means to.
They have the financial means. And Victor, it's been a minute since the Baltimore Orioles have been a thing. And so
it's funny that they're not really. And please, I'm just saying this as someone who's now living on the East Coast, Southwest Florida. You said it's been a minute, and I was going to finish that with saying it's been a minute since they've been relevant.
Exactly.
And even this year, they've gotten love, but not to the point. Not to the point
enough.
where like they're 58-37, tied with the Rays atop the American League East. Mm-hmm. That's a damn good ball club, young ball club across the diamond, and with a pipeline down below. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's.
I wonder how many baseball fans listening to this, as they heard us talking about that, actually knew or realized that the Orioles were in first place.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to answer your question too, you got the Braves. I don't know if they're going to sacrifice the future. I mean, the Braves are a well-run organization.
What about the Rangers?
The Rangers have the prospects to do it.
But do you transfer him in the AL West? Or move him?
You're not trying to win the West if you're the Angels.
Well, here's the thing about sending them to the Rangers. You could get a haul if they're willing to give some blue chip prospects. I don't think Ohtani's going to resign with the Rangers. So tracking
never
down
say
that
never.
lane,
Never.
True. You got Darvish.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
And that came out of nowhere.
Right.
True. That was back when it was a bidding issue. So, but that being
Jacob
said,
deGrom chose the Rangers too. So I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there's some things to be excited about if you're a Ranger fan with, Simeon and Seager and Josh Young at third. Josh Young is legit. I mean, he
is legit.
He's got some strikeout in his bat, but he's a hell of a player. Heim behind the plate is a pretty good catcher, pretty good bat as well. Adolis Garcia is pretty good center field. So there's some guys to be excited about there if you're a Ranger fan. And you're right. I think they do have the players, and I think they'd be open to it. And I think the Angels would be open to making that trade. I think I shared with you guys in the past, right? I've never understood why, like the whole clash between the Rangers and the Angels. And I know there was some crap talking with I think it was Lackey and then the
Kinsler.
Kinsler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get off my field.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But like Angel fans don't look at the Rangers and go, "Oh God, the Rangers." No, Ranger fans do that of the Angels though, which is a little weird. You know
that's
what I mean?
weird. I hate the A's more than the Rangers. The Rangers are a far distant team, even though they're in the division. I absolutely hate the Mariners with a passion. Yeah. They're just like 1995 has left a scar on my heart that I'll never recover from.
Do you hate the Astros?
It's weird. Everybody says I should,
right?
But I hate them in the sense that they're the best, and I want to beat them. But I don't hate them with the same, intensity as I do the Mariners and the A's. Yeah. I just don't.
So the A's don't bother me. A's don't bother me. And now they're going to Vegas. I like them even better.
I could never hate the Rangers after the whole Tyler Skaggs thing. Yeah. I think that the way that they, as a organization, handled that for the team, for the fans during that whole thing was one of the classiest things that I have ever seen any professional sports organization do. And I could never hate that team after that.
Yeah. And I'll even say this, and Victor, you could probably speak to this. The Texas Rangers broadcast team, I love them. I have switched over to their feed, with apologies to our broadcasters that have been in place since.
Not Victor when you were broadcasting, of course.
Don't take this the wrong way, guys. But
no, Victor, I'm saying after you transitioned off of the Angels, and the Angels really had nobody, and they're just like taking guys off the bench, to fill in at the broadcast. I would switch. I love their broadcast team, and I just love it's a great stadium too, if you've ever been there. So
I like their yard.
Yeah,
it's a good place to watch a game. Good place to eat.
It is. It's
they got
big.
Good food.
It's huge. You're in there, and this is literally the biggest stadium ever. It's just ginormous.
I don't know why everybody was so focused during the COVID World Series. Everybody's so focused about the outside, what it looks on the outside because of the retractable roofs. And who cares? Once you're inside, who cares? It's just the dumbest things that people choose to kind of nitpick on things.
Right.
We talked about Ohtani. I think we talked about Ohtani enough. I think.
We could do a whole.
I was going to say, can we ever talk about him enough?
I guess my wheels are churning in that from a media perspective, and if you're holding all the cards, which Perry is holding all the cards because it is Ohtani. I don't think that to me, you know what the threshold is to make the move on him. I think I would imagine you already know. As an organization, you should know, right? So if that threshold is met tomorrow versus next Friday, I got to make the move. I got to make the best deal possible because anything can happen between tomorrow and next Friday, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't think that there's any. It's just kind of like the Rangers going out and getting Chapman. It's like, why do you have to wait till the last minute to decide? Look, if you're in, you're in. Most teams that are in kind of know that they're in. The Angels are in that space. They put themselves in that space where they're 9 back, 4.5 back in the wild card. And that's within distance, right? Within shouting distance. But I don't know that Perry has to hurry, nor does he have to really wait. He's kind of in that driver's seat. Here's another thing I want to throw out to you, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time today. Well, then maybe I won't throw this out there because this will be one of those conversations.
Oh, come on. Just real quick. Come on.
Okay. I will throw this out there. And you could dissect it now or you could dissect it off off the show and maybe into next week. If you're a general manager looking at Shohei Ohtani, who I think the world of, we all think the world of, okay? How much are you expecting talent-wise from him beginning in age 29 and a half season, and for how long? I think that's the biggest question that you have to ask yourself when you start thinking about either re-signing him or if whoever signs him in the off season is very, very, very few contracts, minuscule number of contracts, long-term contracts ever truly work out to the benefit of the organization or to both sides, where you could say, hey,
Right.
he got his money. That was fair. He got, he produced this amount for the organization, got to the playoffs, whatever. Those are rare, right? So what is your expectation? At what age and when does the drop-off begin for either one of the two things, offense or the pitching side, or both simultaneously? And I'm just throwing that out there as you start thinking about the long-term effects of signing someone like Shohei to a big contract when you still have Rendon 3 years and you still got Trout for a number of years.
What if you were to give him an opt-out? And what I mean by that is you pay him, you front load a ton of money the first 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then he may be of the mind that, hey, I've done this thing. I've had my shot here in the States, but I want to go back to Japan where it all started for me and finish off my career while I'm still semi-productive.
Do you get the sense that he wants to do that?
Well, I don't know. It's something you give him as an incentive, right? Like you say, we want you for the next 3 or 4 years, but we're going to give you an opt-out at the 3 or 4 year mark so you can make your choice if you still want to stay here and pursue playing baseball here, or take what you got, what's left in the tank when you're in your mid-30s back to Japan and contribute, in front of the Japanese fans. I don't know.
I don't, Jeff. The only thing I would say to that is, I mean, it's a. If you're writing a book, it's a nice fairy tale finish. Mm-hmm. It really is. No, I'm thinking along with you. I think it from a legacy, because I used that term the last time we talked about this contract for Shohei.
Yep.
It's about the legacy of Shohei Ohtani, right? So I like that thought process. I think the opt-out situation only really works if I'm the agent, if I don't have enough suitors to bump the price up. Because then I can look at it and I could sell my player, hey, it's 2 years, hey, it's 3 years, and you know what? You're only going to be 31, 32 years old, and we could try to do this again. I'm of the opinion that this is this once-in-a-lifetime unique opportunity as an agent, as a player at 29 and a half years of age, to sit there and go, let's hit the mother load.
And that's
someone's gonna hit the mother load with him. Give him the years and everything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's fine too, Victor. But then you're not on the hook as the owner of the Angels, whoever that may be at that time. Okay. If Artie's decided to sell or whatever, that, it's on the player to leave.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, it's on the player. The player.
You're talking about a player option, not a club option.
I'm talking about an option for the player. Yeah. It's a player option.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the player and the agent are very rarely going to take that when they know that they can get an additional 7 years guaranteed. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
So if you Carlos Correa, the market for Carlos Correa was nil, right? So he said, "Okay, I'll sign a 3-year deal with an opt-out after year 1." Well, that's what he did. He opted out, and he put himself back in the market, right? So if you don't have the teams that are fighting for you, then I think it makes sense, because then it's almost like opting out for free agency every single year and try to hit the jackpot, right? But you're also rolling the dice. One catastrophic injury, an elbow blows, get the fingernails of problems. They only make 10 starts. So now are you decreasing your value? You roll the dice versus guaranteed glue. That's the biggest thing. I would imagine, who are the suitors for Shohei Ohtani this offseason? Angels, I'd imagine.
Angels, Dodgers, Giants, Mariners,
Giants,
probably the Padres.
You think the Giants?
I think the Giants.
Oh, I think the Giants too.
Maybe. I don't see them putting that money, but maybe Yankees.
Yeah, I think that the East.
I don't think he's going to sign.
Well, I'm not saying he's signing there. I'm saying what teams
who's going to pursue him?
Who is pursuing? And so there's going to be enough. There's going to be 5 or more teams that are going to be pursuing him. So at that point, I'm never looking at it. I wouldn't be looking at it as, hey, if I don't get the number I like, I'll just take a 2-year with a 1-year opt out. No chance. Not when you're talking 400, whatever the number is. Yeah. That everybody keeps throwing out there. Like, that's generational wealth, man. That's like, you want to talk about building a legacy, you do that.
Right.
Take that money, go back to Japan and build all the ball fields and all the things. You know what I'm saying? You can really make an impact in your home country by doing that. That's where I get that little, I get where you're coming from. I get it. It makes sense to certain guys if the market doesn't shape up, but there's not going to be a problem with the market shaping up for Shohei.
And as his agent, you are positioning him as to any club, to the Angels or anybody else. You are paying for 2 players.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying for one of the top pitchers in Major League Baseball. You're paying for one of the top hitters in Major League Baseball.
The top hitter.
They happen to be in the same body. So the comps on this guy, there aren't any.
No.
So your question, Victor, like, what are the thoughts as you go into it? I think he's going to get what they ask for. And if he and his agent sit down and say, we want a minimum of 10 years, and unless you're ready to come in with a contract of over $500 million or more, we're not interested in having a conversation.
Yeah.
I've got to think that's where they're starting from.
Yeah. I was just trying to play the devil's advocate of, like, when do you think the regression begins?
That's tough because
you're doing 2 things at the highest level.
Right.
And so how long can that be sustained? He's a freak of nature. Maybe he goes, I was going to say Bonds but Bonds had a little bit of help. But that maybe he becomes that guy,
right,
that is capable of sustaining this. Because at the end of the day, I think for me, like you said, Chuck, I think front loading it makes a sense, because there's going to be dead money. I mean, unless he just is truly a unicorn, and in year 7, 8, 9, and 10, he's a freak of nature still. The odds are there's going to be dead money at some point, part of that contract, right? And so, if you can afford, I would rather get rid of, or if I have to pay tax, do it now versus, being hamstrung down the road. And I'm also getting maximum performance for the maximum value, and I'm paying for it in the years where I think he's going to be the most productive. The first 3 years of the contract, whatever that year. I was just kind of throwing that out there for you guys, what you thought that curve, when's that curve going to start? If it does start for Shohei.
I'll say this real quick. I know, Jeff, you want to say something. We also always have to look at this when we talk about Ohtani through the lens of Artie Moreno. Okay. Artie Moreno wants butts in the seats. He wants that marketing. He wants that advertising. He wants that revenue from ball games being played over in Japan. He wants that regardless, I think, in August, in September. He wants to at least be playing meaningful ball in August and September. And I think that it's going to be Perry Manassian's job to drill into him. Like, dude, I know it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. I'm telling you right now, it's going to kill the attendance if Ohtani's traded. Just absolutely obliterate the attendance.
We got to wrap, but I will just end by saying I think that's true, Chuck, but I don't think that what you just described is unique to Artie. I think most every other owner in the league
they would do the same thing.
that are going to be pursuing him wants the same thing. Victor, I'll turn it back to you to close us out.
Guys, another wonderful show. I wish I could stay on and talk more about this, because this is something you could, like I said, we just spent 45 minutes and I feel like we didn't really talk about much, but we talked a lot.
Yeah, we talked about everything.
Yeah. I mean, so, but we will be back. What is it? The 31st? No,
it'll be the 30th.
The 30th, Sunday, the 30th. Yeah. So you won't get a show from us this coming Sunday. It'll be a week from Sunday, right before the trade deadline. How perfect is that? I mean, maybe Chuck
there's
might
big
be crying
news
in his spilled beer. I don't know. Maybe, or spilled bourbon.
We'll have a lot more. We'll have a lot more to talk about for sure.
I actually did spill my beer in this episode.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Rookie.
Yep.
Guys, try this long branch from Matthew McConaughey.
Speaking of product placement.
Goodness gracious. You are a product whore, Chuck Richter. And I'm here for it.
Endorsements, old
I'm here for it. I'm going to start making shit up. I'm going to start endorsing stuff just for the hell of it.
You're going to put something on those back blinds. I could just see it, man. There's going to be
I'm changing my scenery. You know, those blinds suck, don't they? I'm going to change my scenery here a little bit.
I got blinds behind me too. I know it sucks.
Yeah, it's brutal. All right, boys. For Chuck Richter and Geoff Stoddart, I'm Victor Rojas. Thank you so much for listening to the Angels Win podcast, and we will speak to you on August the 30th. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Angels Win podcast with Victor Rojas, Chuck Richter, and Geoff Stoddart. Go Halos and drive home safely.
Say goodbye.
I couldn't remember. Are we supposed to